So I'd like to begin this morning by taking just a quick poll. By show of hands, how many people own an iPhone? About half. Good. Okay, hands down. How about a Samsung product or anything that's Android powered? Oh, a passionate Android user over there. About half, okay. And finally, who here owns a BlackBerry? There's always one, come on. Well, regardless of the device you own, did you know that the average person looks at their phone 46 times a day? It's about once every 20 minutes that we're awake, right? We also know now that of the world's 7.6 billion people, yeah, Tom was right, 7.6 billion people, 2/3 of them own a mobile phone. In fact, more people on the planet today own a mobile phone than a toothbrush. Think about that. Don't think too much, but think about that. And in Maryland, there's got to be a sustainable project that some of our clubs could develop around that fact. What is also interesting is since this time yesterday, 950,000 people joined a social media platform for the very first time. That's 11 new users of social media every second. So in an era when we are more connected, more distracted than ever before, how does Rotary remain relevant? Right, that's what I'd like to talk with you about this morning. Because you see, I believe we're at a critical turning point for Rotary. And we should be asking ourselves, quite simply, what kind of Rotary do we want to be? There's not a right or wrong answer to the question, but the fact is, in communities throughout the United States, the general membership trends tell us that the marketplace is simply not buying our product the same way that it used to. Now, I don't know about you, but I love data. I'm passionate about data, and I love data visualization. Charts and graphs like this that so clearly illustrate what the data says. Now, none of us like the slope of this line, but you cannot deny what this graph shows us, right? I'd like to show just a couple more graphs with you this morning. I know it's Saturday morning, 9:30. Maybe you stayed up a little bit too late last night. I know Joe called membership possibly a dry topic, but I don't think there's anything dry about this hotel based on the hospitality suite last night. But I'd like to share just a couple of my favorite charts with you this morning. Okay, the most accurate charts, data visualization that I've ever seen. Let me show you the first one. Pretty clear. Let me show you one more. So you might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with membership? Actually, it has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Just wanted to see if you're still paying attention or already checking your phones. But it sounds like most of you are with me still, which is good. But let's go back to the membership trends. Like I said, the general market is not buying our product the way it used to, not in North America, not in the great state of Wisconsin, right? So we have to be willing to adapt. If we don't, we risk the same fate as Kodak, clearly as BlackBerry. I could see you, that one person back there. And most recently, Xerox, right? All major companies who have simply lost the innovation foot race. What management experts call the competency trap. When an organization becomes so good at doing one thing, it's unwilling and unable to learn to do anything new. It's unable to adapt to changing times. But a recent international study on volunteerism found that the very nature of volunteering is changing dramatically. And the study cited 4 key trends: the rise in virtual volunteering, the increase in workplace-based volunteering, the growth in skills-based volunteering, and the 4th trend, the one that I believe has huge implications for Rotary, the rise in episodic volunteering. In short, the report suggests that people want more meaningful volunteering roles, right? And they want more flexibility in determining how and when they're going to give of their time. And the fact is, whether it's volunteerism or consumerism, there's an entirely new element in the mix today, and that is convenience, right? Think about the world in which we're living in. We don't want to wait a week to watch our favorite television show, right? We'll DVR it and skip the commercials. Or better yet, we'll open up Netflix and we'll binge watch an entire season in a day. Right? We don't want to pick up the phone and wait for a taxi. We'll use an app, and an Uber or a Lyft will arrive immediately. You and I live in that Kindle, Spotify, Apple Pay, work from home, customizable era where every company out there is trying to learn our behaviors, anticipate our needs, and put products in front of us that we are willing to pay for. Now, my favorite example is Hershey's and their Reese's Peanut Butter Cups Minis. See, they found an array of situations, driving your car, standing in a crowded subway, playing a video game, where that original large format peanut butter cup was simply too big and too messy. Meanwhile, their smaller individually wrapped cups were a hassle, right? Who wants to use both hands when you're eating a piece of chocolate, right? But Reese's Minis, it comes in a flat-bottomed resealable bag, right? A consumer can easily dip just one hand into. And the results were extraordinary. In just the first 2 years, over $235 million in sales, and the birth of a breakthrough brand extension. Now, they never changed that delicious combination of peanut butter and chocolate, right? But they packaged it just a little bit differently, right? They packaged it differently so that it might be attractive to new consumer segments. For associations like Rotary, the story suggests that for member engagement and innovation, we have to have a real-world understanding of our members' lives, right? We need to be willing to look at our product. And what's our product? Our product is the club experience. We need to be willing to look at our product through the eyes of our current and our future members to understand what they truly value. And we need to be willing to think differently about how we've been doing Rotary. Now, Woodrow Wilson once joked that the easiest way to make enemies is to try and change something, right? Something you're familiar with in your club, I suspect, right? But that being said, some of the very traditions, processes, and protocols that we all hold on to so dearly in our clubs could be the very things that are causing us to lose relevance, right? The things that seem so obvious and sensible to you and I could be entirely foreign, even off-putting, to the very people we're trying to attract. I suspect most of your clubs already do this, but it never hurts to stop and reevaluate where you're directing your resources. Ask your members what their membership experience is like. How satisfied are they? And what do your club's projects and activities say about your club? We have to be constantly mindful of who our audience is, and we have to be willing to meet them where they are, not where we think they should be or where we want them to be. Let me give you an example. A few weeks ago, I went down to Florida with my family for spring break. Right? And one day, I took my son on one of those airboat rides, you know, through the Everglades. We were having a blast, right? Skimming across this brackish water, right? Bird life everywhere. An occasional an alligator sunning on the shore. And then there's these mangroves, right? These trees, just a tangle of roots wriggling out of the mud and the water. And my son, he says to me, "Dad, look at those trees. How did they come to be that way?" And so I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is great. He's asking about evolution. He's only 7 years old, but he's asking this question. We're going to have this great conversation. So we sit on the boat, and we talk about evolution for 45 minutes. It was glorious. Natural selection, the whole thing. Well, the next day, my son's swimming with his cousin, and he asks her a question. And she says to him, "Well, that sounds like a science question. Why don't you ask your dad?" And you know what he says? "I'm not making that mistake again." Ouch, right? Ouch. But we have to know our audience, right? We have to know our audience, and we have to be willing to meet them where they are, not where we want them to be, right? And the good news is that your clubs are now empowered like never before to get to know your audience and to meet your members and your future members where they are. You have the freedom and the flexibility to adjust your club experience, adjust the how and when and where you choose to meet so that you continue to be vibrant and relevant and attractive to your individual marketplace. Really exciting times. Now, we all know clubs, both large and small, that have no trouble attracting members, right? And they're contributing significantly to their local and their international communities. But for some of our clubs that might be stagnant or in decline, you now have that freedom to adjust how, when, and where you choose to meet and offer different types of membership. Changes like adjusting your meeting frequency to just twice a month, or altering your format from a formal sit-down luncheon to a less formal, less expensive after-hours meetup. By show of hands, how many of your clubs are trying different meeting formats or frequencies? A few out there. Great. How about welcoming Rotaractors into your clubs, or helping Rotaractors start new Rotary clubs of their own? How many of you are seeing deeper engagement with your Rotaractors? A few, not as many. And how about other membership categories? Some clubs are now offering a corporate membership so that multiple members of the same company might be able to get engaged and involved with Rotary, or associate membership that might appeal to younger professionals who are looking for a trial period with lower financial or time commitments. Any of your clubs experimenting with new membership types? A few, great, great. You know what we're even seeing now? We're seeing the emergence of cause-based clubs. These are clubs that are able to effectively attract and engage and keep members because of how they organize around a specific focus, like the environment, literacy, clean water, peace. So meanwhile, just as Rotary clubs are altering their product, their membership experience, Rotary International is doing the same thing. We're consulting market research, industry trends, and we're talking to current, past, and prospective members. And it's becoming increasingly clear that Rotary could diversify and broaden its participant base and increase its impact for service if we consider broadening our product portfolio. So think of that original Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, right? Is the same thing as our primary product, right? The Rotary Club is our primary and premier product, just like the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is, right? But how might we connect, engage, and diversify a group of like-minded professionals who share our ideals but are either unable or unwilling to join our existing clubs? Now this brings us back to some of those remarkable statistics I shared earlier on, right, where advances in technology are connecting people in very new and compelling ways. With the instant and infinite access to information and ideas. Now, some people will point to these trends and say, this is just yet another and perhaps the final indicator of the fall, the downfall of the service organization era. Do you believe that? Oh, come on, I can't hear you. Can you believe that? No, absolutely not. In fact, I don't either. In fact, I see these trends as a tremendous opportunity, one that positions Rotary as more relevant and more necessary than ever before. Because with the ever-increasing rise of digital connectivity comes a corresponding void in personal connections and relationships. Consider this. Some of the latest research finds that the average internet user spends 6 hours a day using internet-powered devices and services. That's roughly a third of our waking lives. And other studies have found the harmful effects on children that have excessive screen time, harmful effects like the inability to interpret nonverbal social cues, higher incidences of mental illness, including depression, and a greater risk of obesity. Meanwhile, there's some other fascinating research going on right now around loneliness. And it's found that loneliness has the same effect as 15 cigarettes a day in terms of healthcare costs and healthcare outcomes. And loneliness is found not only to impact our physical health and well-being, it's also shown to have an impact on our livelihood. Lonelier workers are actually found to perform more poorly, quit more often, and report less satisfaction with their job. So this is where I see a very clear and compelling value proposition for Rotary, right? Rotary. It's good for your social, your emotional, your physical, and your professional well-being. That's powerful stuff. That's powerful stuff. So like I said, clubs now have tremendous opportunity to try new things, be more relevant to the community, and continue to grow and diversify our membership. I think this is one of the most exciting times to be a part of Rotary. I hope you all feel that same way. Do you feel that same way? Are we excited? Are we excited? So I think what makes Rotary so powerful is the way in which our core values bring people together who would otherwise have very little in common. Right? Rotary is a movement. It enables us to think, see, and act differently, where emerging and established leaders can come together and bring their unique skills and talents to make an impact collectively far greater than they could alone. Now, historically, traditionally, we do this through our global network of 35,000 Rotary clubs, right? But get this, some of our recent research has found that Rotary continues to have a public image problem. There continues to be this significant gap in awareness and understanding with the general public. People just don't know who we are or what we do. And what's fascinating is, of the people that do know of Rotary, to some degree, 60% don't even realize that the primary organizing structure of Rotary is the club. Think about that. People that just know of Rotary in name don't even realize the club is our primary organizing principle. Meanwhile, we also know that the three perceived barriers to joining Rotary are time, money, and the lack of an invitation. Right? As we continue to see an increasingly stiff competition for our time and money, we have to better articulate the value of membership, and we need to make membership more accessible and inviting to those who want to be a part of us. So again, just as clubs are continuing to do this by altering their meeting formats and frequency and experiment with alternative membership types, Rotary International is exploring alternative engagement models as well. Some models that may not be club-based at all. One such model might allow individuals to join Rotary International without any affiliation with a local club. We would still seek to attract qualified business, community, and thought leaders who want to grow personally, but also contribute in significant ways to their local community and internationally. These folks might have the opportunity to gain skills in personal and professional development growth through exclusive access to online content, but also the opportunity to develop lasting connections with other business, community, and thought leaders. This idea of a global online community, maybe it allows people to get paired with a mentor or a mentee, and also participate in life-changing, transformational events, including both local and international service opportunities. So this concept of a global membership model is still in the conceptual phase, but it gives you an idea of how Rotary International is looking for new and innovative ways to strengthen and broaden and diversify our membership and address those barriers to joining that we're seeing. But no matter what Rotary looks like in the future, no matter how our structure or the membership experience changes, I can assure you we will always be about two things: uniting people and taking action for lasting change. These two things will never go out of style, and they transcend age, gender, and ethnicity. Uniting people and taking action. That is who we are, and that will never change. I'd like to conclude my remarks this morning by sharing just a brief story about my childhood growing up in Kenya. See, we had a family friend who was there. His name was Peter Davies, and he was on a research fellowship with Northwestern University. And one day, Peter decided to go out for a hike on the outskirts of this small town called Magadi. And as he hiked through the bush, he came upon this young bull elephant. And the elephant had one leg raised in the air, clearly in distress. So Peter just carefully approached this young elephant, came up right to it and got down on one knee to see what the matter was. And as he inspected the elephant's foot, he noticed this large piece of wood deeply embedded inside. So Peter, as carefully and as gently as he could, he got out his pocket knife and he worked out that piece of wood from the elephant's foot. The elephant put his foot down and he stepped back, turned to look at Peter. Peter just stared back at him. All he could think of was being trampled, right? Just terrified. Well, then the elephant just trumpeted, turned, and walked away. And as you can imagine, Peter never forgot the events of that day. 20 years later, he was walking through the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago with his then teenage son, Cameron. And this was back when the Lincoln Park Zoo had elephants. And as Peter and Cameron approached the elephant enclosure, one of the large bull elephants there saw them and started to walk over to where Peter and Cameron were standing. The elephant was just staring at Peter. And he started to trumpet and raise one foot. He did this several times, just staring right at Peter. Peter couldn't help but wonder, could this really be that same elephant, right? So the elephant continued to just engage with Peter, staring at him, raising a foot up, putting it back down, and trumpeting loudly. Well, eventually, Peter actually summoned up his courage, and he decided to climb over the railing and down into the enclosure. He walked right up to the elephant, just staring back in wonder. And the elephant wrapped his trunk around one of Peter's legs. He lifted him up. He slammed him into the railing. He killed Peter instantly. Probably wasn't the same elephant. Yeah. Probably wasn't. So what's my point of the story, besides the obvious perils of confronting large wild animals, right? Well, it's to take your membership in Rotary seriously, but not too seriously. Come on, have some fun, right? Be willing to take some risks, but be thoughtful about what you might do differently. If there's an elephant in the room, be willing to confront it, and never let your romantic memories and the traditions of the past cloud your judgment on how to move your club and Rotary forward. Thank you so much.